Appreciate everybody being here. Not a whole lot to report coming off of a bye week, but just a quick injury update. Jordan Whittington's surgery went well. Again, looking at about 3 to 4 weeks there. Jake Smith is continuing to rehab. Going to try to get him, running on the ground tomorrow or Wednesday. I think, Wednesday or Thursday we'll know a lot more with him. And then Reese Moore is recovered or has recovered quite nicely from his recent knee scope, and we plan to get him back into practice on Tuesday. So that's good news as well. Questions?
Go ahead and raise your hand if you had a question, and we'll open up your mic. Onward, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. I want to ask you about the run game. In the past game, Keontae, he had 9 carries and Roshan had 8, so pretty equal distribution. But Roshan did jog out with the ones. I know you'll say it doesn't matter because you're going to play all these guys, but I'm curious as to, one, what Roshan did to, earn at least that starting role. Are you looking for someone to kind of just become that lead back, or are you wanting to distribute the ball as evenly as you guys did in the past game?
Yeah, I think an even distribution is what we're after. I think especially in 2020, you're going to want to make sure that those guys stay fresh and healthy. And I don't know that Roshan did anything out of the ordinary. Keontae had missed a couple practices, and that set him back a little bit. But, I mean, I don't know how more emphatic I can be that, I know you guys always want to judge who's on the first line and the 2 deep and who jogs out with the ones, but to us and more importantly to those young men, it's irrelevant.
John, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, how much of the Houston Baptist game have you guys watched? Will you watch? And do you feel like your guys just have that attitude now where they go in and take care of the teams like they're supposed to and do what they're supposed to?
Well, I think supposed to is very subjective. You guys get to decide what supposed to looks like. We're just concerned about winning and, playing to the best of our abilities. And if that means something is supposed to happen because of it, then we'll let other people decide that. But as long as we play to the best of our abilities, we feel very confident. And then, yes, we have watched the HBU game numerous times. I think it's difficult to get a bead on Texas Tech's defensive philosophy simply because we know what a potent throwing attack HBU is, and a lot of time I think HBU averaged 350 a game throwing or something like that last year. So anytime you're playing a team that is that heavy on one side or the other, run pass, that's going to affect your defensive game plan, I would think, a little bit. So this will be a good test of in-game adjustments for us. I think they're definitely going to be different than last year, and I would imagine they're going to play us a bit differently than their defensive game plan for Houston Baptist. But no, there is, John, to your larger point, I think there's a quiet confidence. I think our guys know what they're capable of. I think the game against UTEP was what it was. Like you said, we did what we were, quote, supposed to do. And, so I don't know that anybody is really gleaning a whole lot other than, we did what we were supposed to do from that game. But I do think that just from the veterans being around here, seeing the makeup of different teams, as well as just the overall sense of what this team is capable of, I do think that there's a lot of confidence in that locker room.
Chip, you're up.
Tom, what did you like? What didn't you like from your offensive line in the opener? And with Hookfin now back from the injury list, how much is he pushing Okafor at
I like the fact that we threw the ball, in the upper 40s and had 0 sacks. I thought that was impressive. I didn't like, though our quarterback got hit a couple times, and when we decided to major in the run game, we didn't exert our will necessarily, maybe the way that we did in the throw game, and but I'm not too concerned, when you only attempt whatever it was, 10 or 12 in the first half, runs handed off to the tailback, then it's going to be tough to get into a rhythm, so to speak. So I think some of that is to be understood. Those are the two things that stand out, like and dislike. And Isaiah's doing a good job. I wouldn't say that he's any closer today than he was last week to cracking the starting 5, but he's a guy that we feel like could at some point.
Roger, go ahead.
Tom, what are the 2020 challenges of going on the road? I know it'll be new for everybody, but you've been as close to a bubble as you can be the last few months, and now you take the road show away from home. What's the planning that goes into that?
Well, it's again, I think one of the reasons we do what we do at home is so when you go on the road, it doesn't feel a whole lot different. You're going to sleep in a hotel bed. This year's different. You're not going to have a roommate at home or on the road. So, 80 something beds to check last week. That took a while. I think probably the biggest thing is what I have learned about the contact tracing on an airplane, which is, if a kid tests positive within 48 hours of being on that airplane, the 2 rows behind him and the 2 rows in front of him are going to get wiped out. And that's regardless of wearing a mask, or at least that's my understanding as of today. So that's going to be a little bit difficult on how we seat the airplane strategically. I know our operations people are hard at work at that, and but beyond that, it'll be, we had to make a lot of changes. We didn't have a team meal the night or day of the UTEP game, night before or day of the UTEP game. Our guys, it was grab your food and go eat by yourself in your hotel room, and so felt a lot different, and it stinks because that is my favorite day of the week during the season. I know it's a lot of our players' favorite day of the week, which is our Family Fridays, which are a time of decompression before the game, a time for fellowship and some fun with your teammates. And it was literally come in. I think I said a few words to them. We had a quick 15-minute chapel reflection, and then get your food and go to your room. And just not the way any of us had envisioned what Friday nights would look like prior to a game, but it's what we got to do in 2020.
Kirk, you're up.
Yeah, Tom, you're facing a coach who's been there at Lubbock for 13 games, and you've talked about establishing a culture at Texas. Do you have any anecdotal information about the difficulty of establishing a culture in a new program?
Not off the top of my head. I think it's important, though, to praise small victories. I think anytime you see something that is a shining example of what your standards and expectations are, you need to celebrate that very early in your time in a new program. But I'm sure if we had more time, Kirk, I could probably rack my brain. There's probably 100 or so stories, but off the top of my head, none that stick out. But I think the biggest thing is to, as I told you on the phone call, which is to stay consistent, never relent, and celebrate small victories.
Maya, go ahead.
Hi, Coach. Hope you're well. I was wondering, how was Josh Moore's path back to the football field over this last year and a half?
How was it?
Yeah, like how did like what did he do during that time to get back and everything like that?
Yeah, he kept his head down, his mouth shut, and he came to work every day. I mean, he was the best player on our scout team offense all year last year, and did it with a smile on his face. I think the biggest thing with him and his return was his attitude. Was he in? Did he make everything that he was supposed to make in terms of being where he was supposed to be for everything that was mandatory? Sure, he did that. But that's the easy part. The hard part is doing it with a smile on your face and going down to the scout team every day for 13 weeks and, getting pushed around, hit around a little bit by our defense and still coming back stronger and with an even better attitude the next day. And so I think that was the biggest thing, was not just what he did, which was, again, be present and accounted for it at everything that we told him he needed to be, but it was just the way that he did it and the attitude he had.
Joe, you're up.
Your goals this year is to play for and win the Big 12 title, and in order to do that, you'll have to do something you haven't done at Texas, and that's probably win 4 games on the road. With this being the first road game and this being 2020 and all that, what do you emphasize to your team whenever you get on that bus or get on that plane and it's time to go play at another team stadium?
Well, I think you got to start fast when you're on the road on both sides of the ball. I think if you give them momentum on either side of the ball, that is something that at home they could try to feed off of more than on the road. I think really the formula is not too different. You've got to, usually in a normal year, you've got to weather the crowd noise and the unfamiliarity of whatever hotel it is that you're staying, but crowd noise should not be an issue this year, and we're all unfamiliar with how we're handling being in a hotel. So I don't see, when you take the crowd out of the equation, there really is no difference playing at home or on the road. And I haven't really given it a whole lot of thought, but I think that's probably the thing that will stick out the most is, we've been afforded a slight advantage everybody has that goes on the road, and is that they don't have to contend with the home team's crowd. But other than that, the formula is no different.
Cedric, you're up.
Hey, Tom, with the contact tracing protocol you mentioned, wiping out rows of players, will you request a seat for Sam in the cockpit?
He's going to fly on his own plane, Cedric.
That's what I thought.
And this is, I know it seems like centuries ago, but, we dealt with H1N1, I think it was, in 2009 when I was at Iowa State, and, we had guys flying into, I remember very, very vividly flying into Lincoln on, we chartered 2 different private planes to bring guys in that had fevers or whatever. We handled that crisis a lot differently than we're handling COVID. I get that, but no, we'll figure it out as best we can, and again, this problem is not unique to Texas. This is something that everybody's dealing with, and hopefully we're able to weather it and plan for it as good as anybody.
Danny, go ahead.
Hey, Tom, you missed him the last 2 years because he was injured, but what are your opinions on Alan Bowman and what he does for that offense?
Well, anytime you throw for, what was it, 430, and lead your team to 630 yards of offense, you're doing a pretty good job at quarterback. But we had always thought, when healthy, that this guy was one of the better ones in the Big 12, and I think he proved that 2 Saturdays ago with his performance against Houston Baptist, and we definitely know that he is more than capable. He is one of the better ones again in our league, and we're going to have our work cut out for us.
Ed, go ahead.
Coach, could you talk about Matt Wells and what he brings to Texas Tech in his second year, and how good can this team be because of Wells' success at Utah State over the years?
I don't know that his success at Utah State has anything to do with his success at Texas Tech. I do think he's the right guy for the job. I think that he, I worked with Matt's brother Luke for 3 years at Iowa State. He was our wide receivers coach when I was the offensive coordinator. So I got to know the Wells family quite a bit, and have always admired Matt. And the really cool thing about Matt and his programs, at least the one at Utah State, and I can see it building here at Texas Tech, is they're going to be innovative offensively, but they're never going to stray from the physicality and toughness, I think, that he wants in his program. And I've always admired that. I always thought that, at Utah State, they were very cutting edge, especially offensively, but always had a physical nature to them that was impressive. And you can see the beginnings of that start to take shape in Lubbock as well.
Thank you.
Mike, you're up.
Hey, Coach. Not a big off season. You didn't have a spring camp. You come back in. You got the bye weeks. What is it exactly that you guys did this week, and what did you do to use it as a teaching week as well from the times that you did miss this off season?
Normally a bye week. Hang on, let me mute Bianco again. Normally a bye week would consist of the Sunday after the previous game off, Monday off, practice Tuesday and Wednesday, and then coaches go on the road recruiting Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and you have what we call a coordinator's practice on Thursday, and the kids would then be off again on Friday and Saturday. This was different for a lot of reasons. One, it was week 2, and we have not had a bye week 2 before. 2, our coaches can't go on the road recruiting. And 3, our training camp was so unique and so different. We felt like we needed the extra work. So we practiced Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Tuesday was no scout team at all. It was, as I told you guys, kind of an extension of training camp, a lot of good-on-good work being done on Tuesday. Introduced a little bit of scout team on Wednesday, but not a whole lot. And then Thursday and Friday were more Texas Tech-centric, if you will. And so, again, like everything this year, even the bye week is different. And, we went from kind of a 2.5-day work week to a 4-day work week with some minimal time off for obvious reasons too, right? You don't want to give a team full of 120 18 to 22-year-olds, 72 hours off, but we needed the work too. We missed so much regularity of training camp that it was important for us to continue to work and get better.
Steve, you have a question?
Yes. Hey, Coach. Talk about your linebacker play a little bit, please, and tell me how it changes against an opponent like Texas Tech that has more of the air raid concepts. Do they more involved in the pass defense than a normal coach?
Yeah, I think they're always going to be involved in the pass defense. That is the one position, if you will, that kind of does double duty a lot like a tight end on offense. You got to know all of the run fits and blitzes and scouting report in the run game, as well as all of the different route combinations as well. So, I'm happy that we've got some pretty athletic guys there in DeMarvion and Juju and David Benda, guys that can run and change direction and cover a lot of ground. So, we feel good about those guys and their ability to play a pass-heavy offense. But you are right, Steve. I mean, they've that position more than any other on defense has to be extremely well versed in both areas.
Jeff, you're up.
Hey, Tom, I got a two-parter on the tight ends. How would you evaluate their play in the UTEP game? Or I guess, did you evaluate their play in the UTEP game? And then what did you see from that group in camp, just from an offensive standpoint, that, allowed 12 personnel to be used so heavily in the UTEP game? And is that something that you plan on featuring that group in pretty heavily going forward?
Yeah, I think so. I thought they graded out really well. I think 3 out of 4 graded a champion. I think we had 3 out of 4 catch a ball. I know Malcolm's was a lateral that counted as a rush. We had a touchdown catch in that group. So I feel really good about the 4 guys we have there, and they've stayed relatively healthy. Braden Leibach rolled his ankle last week in practice early in the week, but he'll be back today. No, I do think, especially with Jay Witt out and Jake kind of on the mend, I think you'll see more and more 12 personnel, and our guys are versatile enough to do it, and they can run and catch, but they can also stick their face on people and block them in the run game too.
Got 3 last questions in queue. We'll go ahead and start with Cedric.
Yeah, Tom, how much football did you watch over the weekend, if any, and what advice did you give your players going into the weekend? I know Mac Brown always told his guys, he encouraged them to watch a game or two and maybe learn something.
Does 6-year-old flag football count, said?
Hell yeah.
Well, I watched the 6-year-old I-9 fighting Westlake Armpits as they decided to call themselves this year. Get a nice big win Saturday morning in their opener. So that was fun to see Maverick run around. By the way, he got the sportsmanship award, so he's been wearing his medal to bed for the last few nights. So that was kind of cool. But I have a feeling you were asking me about a different kind of football. So I watched a little bit, not a whole lot. I actually watched. Have you guys seen the documentary, The Social Dilemma? If you haven't, it's on Netflix. It's a couple hours long. It is pretty eye-opening on the big business that is social media. So we watched that as a family. Watched couple college games. I watched De'Eric play Saturday night. That was fun to see him run around and throw the ball around a little bit. But yeah, we always tell our guys, if you're going to be home, which you should be, on a bye weekend, especially during these times, then we encourage you to turn the game on and come back and share some thoughts with your coaches too.
Thanks, Tom.
Time for one last one. Danny, you're up.
Tom, going back a couple weeks ago to your announcement that you guys were going to have 7 captains, why that many, and what did this summer show you about those guys, leadership-wise, the guys that aren't Sam, because we kind of know about him and his leadership?
Well, why that many is because that's how many the team kind of decided. We took a vote where everybody was eligible. These 7 guys were head and shoulders above the rest of the team, and then within these 7 guys, to cut it to 4 would have meant, literally a 1 vote would have determined whether a guy was or wasn't a captain. And so we actually re-voted with just the 7 guys on the ballot. There you go, Mike. Yeah, Westlake Armpits, baby. Go Pits. But so we voted again with 7 on the ballot, and again, they were all within a vote or 2 of each other. So, we had 6 last year, I think. So it felt like the right thing to do. That the team was pretty adamant that these were the 7 guys, and I think it's a compliment to all of them that their team is that. I guess the word is divided on who should represent them, but really a cool thing to see that many guys get that many votes. And then what did we see over the summer? And fall? Again, just guys that take care of their business, guys that don't shy away from hard work, guys that hold their teammates accountable and are excited to come to work every day.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks, guys.